Natin Va, it's Misha Stevie, and welcome to Fèis Thatha online percussion workshop. It's a real shame that we couldn't make it up to Aberfeldy this year due to the current situation, but I can assure you that it's definitely going to be happening next year, so make sure you check that out online. So that drum groove that I just played, that is what we're going to be aiming for in this lesson. It's quite complicated, there's a lot going on with it, so we're going to break it right down and go over some hand positions first, maybe some rudiments, talk about some note values and how we count them, and then develop it into that drum groove that you could play for any 4/4 tune, like a reel. It would sound really nice with that. So for this lesson I'm using a gembi drum, but you don't have to use this drum. You can use any drum that you have at home, and if you don't have a hand drum at home, just maybe improvise. You can find probably many things in the house that resembles a drum. I was using an upturned plastic bucket, and you just turn it around, make sure it's nice and clean, and you can hit the center of it, you can hit the edge to represent a drum. So you might want to pause the video for now, go and get yourself something that resembles a hand drum that you can play with your hands, and then come back and join us then. So let's get started. There are two hand positions that we're going to talk about in this lesson, and the first one is the bass note, and then there's the open tone, or the slap tone is what it's called as well. Slight difference in those, but we'll just talk about it as we'll call it an open tone just to keep it simple for now. So some of you might be right-handed, some of you might be left-handed. I'm right-handed, so I call that my dominant hand. So for those of you that are left-handed, whenever I say right hand, it means your left, which would be your dominant hand. Okay, so we're going to start off with the bass note position using our right hand, and to get this sound, I need to lift the gembi off the ground to create that really nice warm bass note that we're trying to achieve. And you're using the fleshy part of your hand here, that's the contact point, and your fingertips there, and you're just playing, you're trying to play the center of the drum. Okay, and basically when you come down, you're striking the drum skin with that fleshy part, and then you're allowing the hand to bounce back off. Okay, not too high. You're always sort of keeping your hands quite close to the drum skin, so you're just treating it as a bouncing technique, rather than playing the bass note and then letting your hand fall onto the drum skin and having it stuck there. You want it to be bouncing. You want it to be bouncing back off, as if you're bouncing a ball and just reacting to the ball that's bouncing, and that's what we're going to be doing. So I'll take it nice and slow just with the right hand, and I'm just going to be counting in chunks of 4. Here we go. 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll stop there. Let's try that again. Okay, so I'll count us in after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and stop there. That's great. So that's 4 what we call quarter notes or crotchets on a right hand bass note. Now let's do the exact same, but we're going to use our left hand. Okay, so the exact same thing, and this might feel a little bit unfamiliar, a little bit strange if you're used to doing most of the things with your right hand, like bouncing a ball or throwing a ball, writing. Anything that you do with your left hand can sometimes feel a little bit awkward to start with, but just go with it. It'll take a little bit longer to get the same strength in your left hand, but in drumming, in percussion, everything that we do with our right hand, we have to do equally, just as good with our left hand. And the same if you're playing with sticks as well. Every stroke with your sticks has to be this, the same height, the same velocity, and everything. It has to be quite evenly matched. So we're trying to achieve that, but don't worry about it if it feels a little bit strange. Just go with it for now. So we're going to do 4 bass notes with our left hand. Remember, in the center of the drum, and using the fleshy part and our fingertips. Okay, and it should be nice and relaxed. Keep your fingers a little bit of space in between. You're not closing your fingers up like this. There's just a nice bit of space in between each finger. You're coming down. It's not too loose that you're slapping. You don't want to be slapping the drum. It's quite firm. Your wrist and hand should be quite straight as you're bouncing back up off the drum. So not too wristy for this one. Okay, let's try it. So after 4 again, we'll just do 4 bass notes and then stop. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and stop. Okay, let's do that again after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent stuff. Okay, now we're going to do 4 bass notes on our right hand, followed by 4 bass notes on our left hand, and this time we're going to keep it going round and round. Okay, now all the time I'm doing this, I'm thinking of a tempo or a pulse. Okay, and that keeps us locked in to a groove. If we can really understand the tempo, and every single thing that we do with our hands has to relate to that tempo. Okay, and once you get an understanding of that, it really does help. And it's quite important at this stage to understand that in drumming, we provide the backbone or the structure for the other musicians to play along to. And they really do appreciate a drummer that can really keep solid time. That means that you're not speeding up and you're not slowing down, and it's just got a really nice flow to it, a really nice constant flow. No matter what you're doing, it's really flowing all the time, and that really sets up a nice feel for the song or the tune. And to achieve that, you just initially have to understand the tempo, and we're going to do some exercises a bit later on, and we talk a bit more about that. But for now, 4 bass notes on the right and 4 bass notes on the left, and we're going to keep it looping round. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and right, 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 and left, 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 and right, 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 and left, left. A couple more times. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic, that's excellent. So you'll notice that when I'm doing that, my hands are staying relatively close to the drum skin. They're not always touching, so I'm always keeping a little bit of distance off the drum skin. When I go to play the notes, my hands are still staying relatively close to the drum skin, and they're not wandering away too far. It would become very difficult to play, so make sure you're not playing at this kind of height each time. Keep them relatively close, because as you get quicker, you want to get closer to the drum skin. Okay, so it's really important just to kind of keep your hands just ready. And if you're having to hold on to the drum each time, then you have to maybe fix how you actually hold the drum. Okay, so I'm just holding it between my knees, and I've got a good grip of it there. And it depends on what you're using. You could just be using a tabletop for this, really, or maybe, as I said, the upturned bucket. In that case, you won't have a problem. But if you are using a drum like this, make sure you've got a real good hold of it, because you really want to be independent with both hands. Okay, great stuff, guys. Let's move on. We've got the bass notes sorted. The second position is over here, and we'll just call this the open tone for now. Okay, now the bit to concentrate on for this one is this part of your hand here. Okay, that's the part that's going to be coming down and striking the rim of the drum. It's not the center anymore. We're over here and onto the rim. Now, I don't know if you can see that. I'll get it a little bit closer. You can see that my fingers, there's a little bit of a gap there under each finger, and that's the position that I want to be finishing with. Okay, so when I come down in slow motion, I'm coming down, I'm playing the note, and very quickly the fingers bounce off. You can't even see it in real time, but the fingers bounce off the drum skin, and then they end up in that position there. And you'll see that my fingers are still in contact with the rim of the drum. I'll play it a few times just to let you hear it, and you won't be able to see the fingers bouncing, but it happens so quickly. Okay, there it is there. That's the note that we're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to do that with me, and you're finding that you're doing this, and you're maybe sticking your fingers down and they're almost glued there, just try your best to lift them up, and you're almost just leaving a little gap. You should be able to get your fingers underneath these fingers each time. Okay, and that's the open tone. It's a bit of a higher pitch sound to the bass note, and that's the two hand positions there: bass note, open tone, bass note, open tone. Okay, so I'll go back a little bit again. So with the open tone, obviously we're going to be using it with both hands, and again the left hand might feel a little bit awkward, so just kind of just go with it for now. And all we're going to do just now is play right and then left and then right and then left, over and over. And at this point you really would, just to make sure that you're getting a real consistent sound, you would just pause the video and go back and maybe even practice the bass note like over and over and over until you get a real feel for it, a real consistent sound. And the same with this one, the open tone. You would just pause the video, go away, put the TV on or whatever, and you can just go through the motions of practicing this. A lot of folk will make the mistake thinking, oh, that's easy, but it's not really. There's actually quite a lot to think about if you want to get the proper sound out of the drum. There's actually quite a lot going on just to try and get that. Some of you might find it really easy and you pick it up very quickly. Others might find it a bit more difficult. So if you are finding it difficult, just go away and practice this one over and over, and just try and copy what I'm doing here, and then go away and practice it really, really slowly. Really slowly to begin with. Okay, so let me count it in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Nice and slow, guys. 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and stop there. Okay, so you get the idea. And as I say, you can go away and pause the video and practice that one until you think you've got a nice consistent sound. You're really aware of what your hands are doing. Okay, don't be doing this or anything. Okay, or just using your fingertips. Okay, just try your best to get into that position. You can see that the angle of my hands here. I'm not doing it here. I'm not doing it away around here. Okay, it's a sort of, if the top of my gembi here was 12 o'clock, so I go all the way down here, and this is 6 o'clock. I would say that my right hand is going to be at 5 o'clock, and my left hand will be roughly 7 o'clock. So 5 and 7, roughly, maybe 8 and 4. Okay, so in between. And that's a really, really good hand position. It's quite natural, and the whole time that you're doing this, make sure that you're always nice and relaxed, shoulders, arms, you're sitting up straight. That's really important to get that going as well at the early stage when you're learning. So really good posture is key. Okay, so from there we're going to practice 2 hand positions over 4 beats. Okay, so I'll play the first 4 beats, then I'll stop, and then we'll try it together. It's going to be this. We're going to start with 2 bass notes, one on the right hand, one on the left hand, and then move our hands over, and we're going to play an open tone with the right hand, open tone left, and that's 4 beats. Okay, let me play it for you, and then we'll try it together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's the idea, and when you get that going, we're just going to keep it, I'm going to loop it round. Okay, and then we'll maybe try it at a little bit of a faster tempo, but for now we're going to take it nice and slow. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and right, left, right, left. And at this stage, all you're trying to do is get a nice consistent sound. you're trying to get each bass note sounding the same and each open tone sounding the same. Okay, it's all about just getting familiar with the hand positions. That's all it is at this stage. Really slow, don't speed up or anything just yet. It's all about getting the nice consistent tone. Okay, one more, two, and stop there. Great stuff, guys, well done. If you're happy playing at that tempo, go over it and get familiar with changing those hand positions. But I'm going to play it a little bit faster for those of you that are kind of getting familiar with that already. So maybe at this tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Still looking for consistency in the sound. Oops. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, even faster. You ready? There's a tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Okay, one more tempo, and that should do it. It's going to be really fast. Okay. It's going to be. I'm actually going to count it off like this. This is going to be the tempo. Okay, so it's hard to count 4 that fast. So I'm going to count 1, 2, off we go, and. So that's really fast. That's what you want to be working up to, and you can get it going even faster than that if you like. But you don't want to make it just sound like a bit messy. You don't want it to sound messy. You still want to maintain the 4 notes, the 4 beats. Okay, and then still maintain that groove. Okay, so that's a great exercise for getting familiar with the bass note and the open tone. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is talk about note values, and this is going to lead us into learning that drum groove that I gave you at the start. Okay, so the 3 essential note values are quarter notes, or you can call them crotchets, 8th notes, or you can call them quavers, and 16th notes, or you could call them semi-quavers. Okay, now the reason I like to call them quarters, 8ths and 16ths is because they actually mean something in terms of how many notes that you're playing within that one count of 4. And for those of you that don't know, when you're counting to one group of 4 then moving to another group of 4, you're counting out one bar of music. So 1, 2, 3, 4, then the next bar, 2, 3, then the next bar. These are called bars of music. Okay, so within that one bar of music you can have these note values, and you're always counting to 4. In this case, most popular tunes or songs are written in 4/4 time, but there are a lot of other time signatures that you would get in traditional music. You've got 3/4, you can get 6/8, you can get 9/8. Okay, you get lots of different time signatures, and that just tells the musician or gives the musician an idea of how the tune or how the song's how it's going to feel, and how you know how many notes that are going to be played in that one bar. So in this case, we're always going to be counting to 4, but we're going to be playing either 4 or 8 or 16 notes within that one group, within that one count of 4. Okay, now with the single notes, these are called single strokes. Okay, and all we're going to do is count initially. We're going to do it all in the open tone position, And it's just like what we've done basically. We're going to do 1, 2, 3. These are single strokes, and we're just using the quarter note, which is playing on every number. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and stop. Now, let's try eighth notes. So we're still counting to 4. Now, a really important exercise is using your voice, and you put the word and in between each number. So it becomes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, now every number should land, or your right hand rather, should land on each number, and your left hand should land on the and that you're saying after each number. So if I take it, just do 1 and, it would be 1 and. So that's definitely landing on that and that and belongs to beat number 1, which we'll talk about a bit later. And then if I go 2 and then and, this and belongs to beat number 2. Okay, so we'll try all 4 beats, just putting the word and in between each number. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we'll stop there. That's us playing just the same 4 beats. It's just 1 bar, but we're now playing 8 notes within that 1 count of 4. Let's try it again. Remember, count out loud. You can use these to really help you make sure that your hand is landing on a number and on the word and. If they're not quite coming down together, you might have to stop and think about that and try and fix that somehow. Okay, let's try it. This time I'm going to maybe loop it around a few times, okay, and that way you can then look at it and pause the video, go away and practice this, and come back when you think you've got it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so let's do 1 bar of just quarter notes and then 1 bar of eighth notes. Okay, it will sound like this. And bearing in mind each bar that I'm playing, I'm still thinking about a tempo. Okay, whenever I count it in, that's the tempo that I'm giving you. Okay, so here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and back to quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, the last one we're going to do, they are 16th notes. So there are 16 notes within that 1 bar, within that 1 count of 4. Now you have to add in a few more syllables, so it becomes 1 E and A. Okay, so I'll say that again, 1 E and A. So there's like 4 notes that all belong to beat number 1. 1 E and, we had the and before, remember, and then A. 1 E and A, and then you would get 2 E and A, and then 3 E and A, and the last one, beat number 4, 4 E and A, and that's our 16 notes that still belong to that 1 bar. Okay, so we're still using our rights and lefts and just in the open tone, and it sounds a lot faster. Now it's not faster in terms of the tempo is the exact same. We're just playing more notes. Okay, we're playing twice as many as the previous exercise, the 8th notes. And I'll demonstrate it and then we'll try it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay, so you can hear how that's sounding, and everything I say well, either it's a one or an E or an and or an ah. You might just have to practice saying that over and over again. One E and ah. Get used to those vowel sounds. One E and ah. And then once you've got the hang of saying it, then you start applying your hands to match what you're saying. So in real slow motion it would be one E and ah. So every single hand movement, or whenever I play the open tone, is matching either a one, an E, an and, or an ah. Okay, and that's really, really, really important that we understand that, and we're not just guessing it. If you know, anybody can just come in and just play lots of random things on the drum, and that might be fine for a couple of minutes or whatever, but it's not really learning anything. If you want to actually play to accompany a tune or a song, you have to go through these motions really to understand it, and then you can play with a nice steady beat to accompany a nice tune, not just playing randomly, and it doesn't really, you know, benefit the tune or anything really. Okay, so we're going to go over those three note value exercises back to back and treat it as a loop, and you'll hear that we're always counting to 4, but then we're just getting faster in terms of our hands are playing more notes within that count of 4. And then what I would suggest is, I mean, I'm going to do it a couple of times, but I would suggest just pausing the video and really practicing that over and over and over until you really, really get it. Anyway, here it is. After 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 1. Okay, fantastic, well done. If you're finding that difficult, pause the video and go away and really, really practice that. Those 3 note values are key to learning percussion and learning about rhythms, and once you get the hang of those, it opens up a whole world of possibilities in terms of where you place your hands, and that's what we're going to move on to next. Okay, we're going to move on to how we actually play that drum groove that I did at the start, and what we're going to use is the 16th note counting pattern. So we've got to think about our 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, because that's what's going to give us the possibility of where to place our hands. Is it a bass note there? Is it an open tone? You know, and we've got bass notes on our left hand possibly, okay? So if you follow the counting, you should get this groove. We're going to take it nice and slow. Let me just remind myself of what we actually played. That's what it is. 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. So that's it played, you know, up to a reasonable tempo. And you can hear in the background that I was counting it out loud. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a that's the kind of flow that it has. Okay, so every single hand movement had its own job to do in terms of where I'm placing it on the drum. So let's break it right down nice and slowly. The first note is your right hand bass note. Okay, and then you've got an E, so 1 E and a. That's the first, that's beat 1 taken care of. 1 E and a. Okay, 1 E and a 2. So beat 2, you're starting here on your right open tone. 1 E and a 2 E. Now you've got that bass note coming in there on the E of 2. That might be a little bit tricky for some of you, okay? So just taking it from beat 2, it would be 2 E and a, 2 E and a. So go back to beat 1. Off we go. 1 E and da. Then beat 2. 2 E and da. Okay. Now just to point out that everything I'm doing is right then left. There's no right then right or left then left. It's always going to be a right hand followed by a left hand in everything that we're doing in this groove. Okay, so up to there it would be after 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and 2 E and Okay, maybe take that a little bit slower. Off we go. 1 E and 2 E and Okay. Okay. So we're getting there. We're up to beat number 3. So beat number 3 is a bit easier because all we're doing is playing 3 E and on the open tone. Okay, so it's just like those single strokes that we did at the start. 3 E and okay. And then we've got beat number 4 coming in. It's a little bit louder. 3 E and 4. Okay. So from beat number 4, it goes 4 E and then back to 1. So the of 4 is a bass note. Take it from beat 4 again. 4 E and Okay. 4 E and So right, left, right, then bass note to finish with. So these first 3 are all on the open tone. 4 E and and then you should be ready to start on beat number 1 again, and that then gives you a loop. Okay, so from beat number 3 it would be 3 E and 4 E and 1. Okay, and then the full thing, I'm just going through this quickly because you've got the benefit of pausing the video and just kind of breaking it up the best you can to follow along. Okay, so I'll play it really slowly to begin with, and then we'll see if we can start to speed it up a little bit. Okay, so you see how my hands are ready there. I've got my right hand ready just to play the bass note, but my left hand's over here. Okay, because it's ready to play the next note. Here we go. 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Okay, so that's our 16th notes. 16 notes within that groove, and all you have to do, if you can get familiar with the counting pattern, is then get your hand moving at the right time, still landing when you either say a 1 or a E or an A or an and. They're always landing on one of these numbers or vowel sounds. Here we go, let's try it again. 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Okay, and that takes us back to 1 again, and this time I'm going to go round and round and round and treat it as a loop. Here we go. 3, 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E, 4 E and 1 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1, 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Okay, so there's quite a lot of movement going in there, so before we take it any faster, if you're not getting it, break it right down. Pause the video, break it down, get familiar with it, and before you even attempt to get any faster. But those of you that are getting it, and this is the real challenge, I thought I would give you something a bit more challenging to work on, rather than giving you something that you would just get right away. But I'm thinking, well, let's get you playing something that's a bit more difficult to play and give you something to work towards. Okay, so here it is a little bit quicker. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and you can get up to that tempo, you're doing really, really good. But you know, make sure you're playing it nice and evenly and it's got a certain flow to it. The last thing I'm going to say to you, just to make that groove complete, is that there's a little accented note on the number 2 and on the number 4. Just a slightly heavier note that you want to be playing. So that means you can either play that one really, really hard, which you don't want to do because you don't want to hurt your fingers, or you bring the other ones down a little bit in volume. Okay, so I'll demonstrate that, and that's the preferred way to do this, is just bring the other notes down a little bit in volume, like this. 3, 4, and 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E. Okay, so you can notice that the softer notes, I'm just really tapping them. They're really quiet. These are called ghost notes. They're really quiet, and it gives me the opportunity to play just a louder note just from here. It doesn't have to be, you know, really loud. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, and they're just really tapping them out. Then play your loud one on 2 and 4, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. And then you just get it in the groove. Okay, well guys, thank you so much for joining me on that lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. There's quite a lot in there to get you working on. So just go with it. You've got the opportunity to pause the video and go back and practice it slowly. Always, always, always practice slowly, and then you can then play it up to speed when you feel that you've got it. And I really hope to see you next year. Take it easy. Cheers.